John Davison Rockefeller was born on July 8, 1839 in Richford, New York. His childhood was not a simple one. His father, William Big Bill Rockefeller, was a traveling salesman. He was a flamboyant and unpredictable man, often absent from the family home for long periods. This left John's mother, Eliza Davison Rockefeller, to manage the household. She was a devout Baptist and taught her children the values of hard work, thrift, and discipline. These lessons would shape John's character for the rest of his life. He learned early on that life was serious and required careful planning. From a young age, John showed a remarkable aptitude for numbers and business. He was a quiet and methodical boy. He started his first business venture when he was just a child, buying candy in bulk and selling individual pieces to his siblings for a small profit. He also raised turkeys and sold them, carefully keeping a detailed ledger of his income and expenses. This little book, which he called Ledger A, was his first foray into accounting. It showed his innate understanding of financial tracking. He learned to save every penny and make his money work for him, a principle he would apply on a much grander scale later in life. The Rockefeller family moved several times during John's youth, and eventually settled in a suburb of Cleveland, Ohio. The frequent moves meant John had to adapt to new environments. He was a serious student who excelled in mathematics. His father, despite his flaws, also taught him valuable lessons about business. Big Bill would often boast about his clever deals and taught his sons to be sharp in negotiations. He would sometimes make deals with his own children to teach them the cold realities of commerce. These experiences, both from his pious mother and his roguish father, created a complex and driven young man. John's formal education ended when he was just 16 years old. He decided to leave high school to pursue a business career. He enrolled in a 3-month business course at Folsom's Commercial College, where he studied bookkeeping and other commercial practices. He was eager to enter the real world of business and apply what he had learned, feeling that practical experience was more valuable than further schooling. This decision marked the end of his childhood and the beginning of his relentless pursuit of success. He was ready to make his mark on the world, armed with a strong work ethic and a sharp mind for figures. In 1855, after completing his business course, a 16-year-old John D. Rockefeller set out to find a job. He was determined to work in a reputable commission house in Cleveland. For 6 weeks he walked the city streets, visiting businesses day after day. He was often turned away, but he did not lose hope. His persistence finally paid off on September 26, 1855. He was hired as an assistant bookkeeper at Hewitt & Tuttle, a small firm of produce commission merchants. He would later celebrate this day, which he called Job Day, as a personal holiday more important than his own birthday. It was the start of his professional journey. Rockefeller quickly impressed his employers with his meticulous nature and dedication. He was not just a bookkeeper, he was a student of every transaction. He scrutinized every bill and invoice, looking for ways to save money and improve efficiency. He worked long hours, often staying late to review the day's accounts. His attention to detail was extraordinary. He learned the ins and outs of shipping, transportation costs, and market fluctuations. These early years were his real business education. He was absorbing knowledge that would become the foundation of his future empire. He was not just earning a living, he was preparing for something much bigger. After a few years at Hewitt & Tuttle, Rockefeller felt he had learned enough to start his own business. In 1859, at the age of 19, he went into the produce commission business with a partner, Maurice B. Clark. They invested $4,000, with Rockefeller contributing half of the amount, which he had diligently saved. The firm of Clark and Rockefeller was successful from the start. It was during this time that the first oil well was drilled in Titusville, Pennsylvania. This event would soon change the course of American industry and Rockefeller's own life. The oil rush created a new and exciting opportunity that he was quick to notice. Rockefeller saw the chaos and inefficiency in the early oil industry. While others rushed to drill for oil, he saw a bigger opportunity in refining it. Drilling was a gamble. Many wells came up dry. Refining, however, was a manufacturing process that could be controlled and optimized. In 1863, he and his partners invested in a new oil refinery in Cleveland's Industrial Flats. This was a pivotal decision. Rockefeller applied his principles of efficiency and cost-cutting to the refining process. He was convinced that the real money was not in finding the oil, but in processing it and bringing it to market. The move into oil refining proved to be a masterstroke for John D. Rockefeller. He believed that to succeed, one had to eliminate waste and control every aspect of the business. In 1870, he, along with his brother William and other partners like Henry Flagler, formed the Standard Oil Company of Ohio. This was the vehicle through which Rockefeller would revolutionize the industry. From its inception, Standard Oil focused on a singular goal: to bring order and stability to the volatile oil market. Rockefeller's vision was to create a massive, efficient enterprise that could dominate the competition through superior management and scale. One of Rockefeller's key strategies was vertical integration. This meant controlling all stages of the production process. Standard Oil didn't just refine oil. It purchased its own forests for timber to make barrels. It manufactured its own chemicals like sulfuric acid needed for refining. The company also built its own pipelines to transport oil, bypassing the high fees charged by railroads. By controlling the supply chain from the ground up, Rockefeller could drastically reduce his costs. This gave Standard Oil a significant advantage over its smaller, less integrated rivals, allowing it to sell its products at lower prices. Another powerful tool was the principle of economies of scale. By producing oil products on a massive scale, Standard Oil could negotiate for much lower prices on raw materials and transportation. Rockefeller famously secured secret rebates from the railroads. In exchange for guaranteeing large, consistent volumes of shipments, the railroads gave Standard Oil discounted rates. This practice was controversial but incredibly effective. It made it nearly impossible for smaller refiners to compete. They paid higher transport costs, which meant their final products were more expensive. Rockefeller was a tough negotiator who used his company's size as a powerful weapon. His approach to competition was ruthless. He often gave his competitors a choice: sell their businesses to Standard Oil for a fair price, usually in the form of Standard Oil stock, or face being driven out of business. Many chose to sell, becoming wealthy stakeholders in Rockefeller's growing empire. This strategy, which he called "our plan," led to the rapid consolidation of the oil industry. By the early 1880s, the Standard Oil Trust controlled about 90% of the oil refining capacity in the United States. It was the largest and most powerful corporation the world had ever seen, a testament to Rockefeller's brilliant and relentless business mind. The immense power and size of Standard Oil did not go unnoticed. As the company grew into a massive monopoly, it attracted a great deal of public suspicion and criticism. Journalists and politicians began to portray me as a greedy and merciless monopolist who crushed his competitors to build his fortune. The term robber baron was often used to describe me. Muckraking journalists, most notably Ida Tarbell, whose father's oil business had been affected by Standard Oil, wrote scathing exposés. Her series of articles, The History of the Standard Oil Company, published in McClure's magazine, painted a damning picture of the company's business practices. This growing public outrage led to significant legal challenges. State and federal governments began to take action against monopolies, which were seen as harmful to free competition and the public good. In 1890, the United States Congress passed the Sherman Antitrust Act. This landmark legislation was designed to break up large trusts and restore competition. Standard Oil became its primary target. The state of Ohio successfully sued the Standard Oil Trust in 1892, forcing it to dissolve. However, my associates and I were clever. We reorganized the company as a holding company in New Jersey, which had more lenient corporate laws, allowing us to maintain control. The legal battles were far from over. The federal government, under President Theodore Roosevelt, was determined to curb the power of the great trusts. In 1906, the government filed a massive lawsuit against Standard Oil, accusing it of violating the Sherman Antitrust Act. The case made its way to the Supreme Court. I was called to testify and I defended the company's actions. I argued that Standard Oil had brought stability and lower prices to consumers, transforming a chaotic industry into an orderly and efficient one. I believe my methods were fair and necessary for building a successful enterprise. Despite my defense, the Supreme Court ruled against Standard Oil in 1911. In a historic decision, the court ordered the breakup of the massive holding company into 34 separate entities. These included companies that would later become well-known names like Exxon, Mobil, and Chevron. While the ruling was seen as a victory for the government and a blow to me, it ironically made me even wealthier. As the owner of a significant amount of stock in each of the new smaller companies, the value of my holdings skyrocketed as they began to compete with one another. The breakup of the empire marked the end of an era, but my financial fortune was more secure than ever. After retiring from the day-to-day management of Standard Oil in the mid-1890s, I embarked on the second great chapter of my life: philanthropy. I had always been a tither, giving a portion of my income to my church since I was a teenager. Now, with immense wealth at my disposal, I wanted to give my fortune away in a systematic and impactful way. I approached philanthropy with the same methodical precision I had applied to business. I did not want to simply donate money, I wanted to solve the root causes of problems. My goal was to support institutions that could create lasting change for humanity. Working closely with my trusted advisor, Frederick T. Gates, I established a series of major philanthropic institutions. In 1901, I founded the Rockefeller Institute for Medical Research, which is now Rockefeller University. This institution became a world leader in biomedical science, contributing to numerous medical breakthroughs. The following year, I created the General Education Board, which worked to improve education across the country, particularly for African Americans in the South. These initiatives were groundbreaking. They applied the principles of strategic investment to social problems, aiming for the greatest possible return in human well-being. The capstone of my philanthropic efforts was the creation of the Rockefeller Foundation in 1913. I endowed it with an enormous sum of money, giving it a broad mission to promote the well-being of mankind throughout the world. The foundation tackled global health crises such as hookworm and yellow fever, and funded scientific research and education on a global scale. My giving was revolutionary because it was scientific and large-scale. I created permanent, professionally managed foundations that could continue their work long after I was gone. In a way, I essentially invented the modern model of systematic philanthropy. I passed away on May 23, 1937, at the age of 97. By the time of my death, I had given away more than $500 million, which would be many billions in today's currency. My legacy is complex. I was both the feared robber baron who built a powerful monopoly and the visionary philanthropist who gave away his fortune for the good of humanity. The principles that guided my success, efficiency, long-term vision, and meticulous attention to detail, were the same ones I used to reshape the worlds of business and charity. My life story remains a powerful example of how ambition, discipline, and strategic thinking can change the world.